Okay, so today I wanted to talk about how I, as an INFJ, feel about our 8 functions right now at this kind of point in my life. Try to be quick because us INFJs can talk forever. Yeah, so first we have our hero function, and this is our NI. So this is kind of our knight in shining armor. This is where we don't really need to think. It's almost like some other types, they'll kind of like ruminate on decisions, a lot of T's, they'll kind of, uh, they'll take a little while to come to a conclusion, but for us it's just kind of like decisions, like what decisions? We don't really need decisions, we just know. And it might take us a little while, but once it's there, we get it. And we love it. We love this NI. Yeah, so it kind of, he'll kind of ride in on his golden chariot and kind of swoop you up and carry you to this sort of safe place, and it's nice, and you don't really need to worry about this knight in shining armor abandoning you, because they won't. You can just kind of sit in the castle, like sit in its throne, just chilling, waiting for it to come back. So it's a good thing. Next we have our parent function, which is our FE, and I feel like this is a good one to have in the parent function, but it's a double-edged sword. It's good because we make everybody, we just have this natural thing about us where everybody feels safe, kind of. We can make people feel safe and warm and loved. But it's like we're so used to that being the case, without even realizing. We're so used to everybody being content and calm around us, because of us almost, that when it's not, when there's even like a slightest disharmony anywhere in sort of a social setting, we then feel it is our sole mission on earth to go make that person feel better. And even if it's at the cost of our NI, our ideals and morals, and that's where it gets hard. You really gotta watch for your FE not to take the front seat, because it's not your dominant function. Yeah, so people love it about us, but it's sort of what we kind of hate sometimes, and especially when we're unaware, like a couple days later we'll look back and we'll be like, oh man, I was a slave to that FE. So it's hard. You just gotta watch it. Next we have our child function, which is our TI, and this is a fun one. This is kind of like, oh hey TI, like what's up? Here's some puzzles to get lost in. Like, you want to go play video games? It's fun. It's like a fun little outlet. I know us as INFJs, we know what our interests are. I really love like writing and painting and stuff like that. So sometimes, like in school, when I was younger in math class, it was like fun. It was kind of like this fun little reprieve from all those N sort of F deep things. It was kind of in the ambiguity that the INF has. It was good. It was kind of a way to see things on paper, sort of figure them out. Logically, they made sense. They fit together. It was almost like a weight gets lifted off your shoulders when you're playing around with your little child TI. Yeah, and it's funny when TI tries to pick up the adult things. It's cute. It's kind of like, what are you doing? Put that down. Like, you can't try. You can't do that. Yeah. Okay, so next we have the inferior function, which is SE, and I used to have a kind of a bad relationship with SE. It was largely, like, unreachable for me consciously. The more, I just feel like kind of with SE, sometimes I need to kind of, like, first make myself get into SE, and then I can learn to deal with it. So what I mean is, like, I have to make myself go play that, like, baseball game with my friend. Or, I need to, like, make myself take that dance class when I really don't feel like it, type thing. And then once I'm there, I'm like, oh, sensing, like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I like that. I kind of have to, like, force myself out of my head. Once I'm out of there, I can get into it. But SE, as other INFJs I know have had this happen, SE can kind of, if you're not practicing it and you're neglecting it, it will rear its ugly head. It's sort of like it'll come in, open the door, cause this like tornado. It'll make you like in the grip of your SE, flips your functions so you're in ESTP for a while. And it kind of yeah, it's kind of like, who said you're in charge? All of a sudden, like, you don't even live here, but it's like it does live here, and like you need to bring it back into the house and use it a little bit more, because when it comes in, it's sort of like this tantalizing, like, badass. badass character that just, it's kind of like, yeah, well, now you're gonna get a speed addiction and you're a porn star and you're gaining 10 pounds, and yeah, it's like, no, we can't do that. We have to really work on our SE and enjoy it in a positive way, in a healthy way. Alright, so now we have our shadow functions, so the first is the NE, and so this is like the opposing force to the NI. So this is kind of like the knight in shining armor that's not so shiny. It's gone a little, it's rough. It's kind of the adventuresome knight that's gonna like go to more places and kind of be a little rebel. So NE, I find, is really hard for me to access in a positive way unless it's directly serving my NI or my FE, and that's, yeah, we'll talk about that. So yeah, it's hard for me, like in school, it was hard for me to brainstorm really, especially when it wasn't about art. It was really hard. So I kind of get a little jealous of types that have a good NE, like the INFP, because that's what you want. And like I paint and stuff. I tried art school for a year. I tried to be a designer. Like, no, I can't use NE like that. I get stuck on one little NI thing, and that's good for art, for like a personal expression for art's sake. I love it. But if you're forced to kind of come out with multiple outcomes to something, it's a little hard. And a lot of us, we only know NE when it's negative. So this is where, okay, you're in a problem, especially with people. We all know what I'm talking about. And the NE will just come pick you up, put you on the horse, like quickly show you every single negative outcome to this problem, and then drop you off at the worst possible one in like the darkest part of the forest, just push you off. You're like in your nightgown, like you don't have any shoes on, you get up, you got like twigs in your hair, and you're like, wait, I want to get back on, and it's just like riding off into the sunset, like, bye, see you later, like, so it's like you want to get back on at NE and like look at positive outcomes to this problem. It's like, nope, nope, you're here. So that's where it's hard. We need to, once we're there, we really have to, it's hard to use it positively. Yeah. Okay, so next we have the bad parent or the witch, and this is kind of a sensitive one. This is FI, so this is all your feelings, all your internal feelings, and I feel like because we're so FE that we forget that, like, okay, FE isn't necessarily like where you internally deal with your feelings. And lots of times when we're in situations with other people, we are feeling the same feelings as them. It's only natural that, like, when you're close with somebody, the same things have happened to you, you're going through the same things, like especially if you're in college or hanging out with a lot of people that your same age, in similar relationships, like, it's only natural that you're gonna have the same feelings as somebody else, so you kind of forget, you know what I mean? Like, you mistake that for being your FI center, and it's not. So, this is how I feel about FI when it's negative, especially when you're really in your shadow. It's kind of like that abusive parent. It's kind of like you're basically enslaving your FI for purposes of endless self-criticism, and it's hard. And because we're so idealistic and we have such a good NI that we almost don't realize it, and we're almost like, well, I'm not critical, I just have standards, and it's like, but we forget, like, where we're employing that criticism, and a lot of times, like, we're employing that through the FI, which isn't really good, you know what I mean? So, yeah, and it's kind of like, and we also need to really forgive ourselves when we are using the FI to be critical on other people, because then we feel really, really guilty about it, and then we FE a lot. So we're not doing it. So basically what I mean is, like, you're really critical on other people when you're in a bad place. Well, they're gonna forgive you. Like, they're not as sensitive as INFJs. They don't hang on to stuff as much. They don't need as much closure. So, especially T-type. So you can kind of just, like, say sorry, and you don't do it a lot. You're a good person, INFJ. Like, it's fine. They're gonna forgive you. So you need to forgive yourself, because if you don't forgive yourself, you're going to feel guilty, you're going to filter that guilt, that guilt comes back through your FI, that's where your emotions are. So it's just a cycle, it's just going to continue and continue. So you really got to work through your FI, it's hard. Alright, next we have the little funny child trickster. This is fun. It's kind of like TE trips you up, it makes you seem like really like you're using it for good. Basically, what I mean is, it's kind of like, you have like a huge paper due the next day, right? TE will just be like, hey, no, now I gotta like reorganize your closet by color and like clean out the fridge at 3 a.m. Like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And you're kind of like, oh, haha, like you got me. Like later, you're like, oh man, good one. Oh, but here, look, now you need to like write this whole paper in 3 hours and give me all these reasons about it and da 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 da. Da. And it's like, what? So TE is like, when I have to access TE, like especially if I don't feel like balanced, or I don't feel like I got my like NF quota for the day. It's so hard for me to access TE. It's just excruciating. Like I don't know how I did as well in school on subjects I didn't really like. I don't know how I did as well as I did. Probably just because us INFJs are really good at guessing on multiple choice things. But anyway, so then lastly we have the SI, which is the demon, and this is a difficult one. I don't really haven't looked in. It's hard for me to really feel how. It's hard for me to know how I feel about the positive side to SI. Yeah, I'm not that in touch with that. But we all know the negative side of SI all too well. So pretty much like when we're really really negative, or something like particularly embarrassing happened, pretty much we bow down to SI. We're like a slave to it. We like without thinking, we just like lay down and bow down to SI. So it's like soul mission is just to like rub your nose into every past mistake and failure. And it's kind of like, oh, tiny mistakes. Oh, there's no such thing as too small for you, demon. Oh, demon, like you do such a good job. It's kind of like it doesn't care, and there's sort of like this sick black comfort we as INFJs take in the SI, because it's like we don't have to think, we don't have to worry. It does everything for you. You know what I mean? And it's scary. It's a scary place, and we hate it. Like we literally hate it. Like being in the grip of the SI is like one of the worst things, the worst feelings. It's literally like debilitating. And a funny thing I noticed with SI is sometimes when something's really bad or really embarrassing, I'll kind of like switch SI over into SE, because gets so filled that it can't go anywhere else. There's no more room in SI. It'll flip over in SE, and this is where I feel like maybe like self-harming behavior comes in. Like luckily I've never experienced that, but what I mean is like sometimes I'll be thinking about something embarrassing and I'll kind of just naturally like go like that, or like kind of like touch my hands together, or like make a little noise, and it's like funny. It's like really embarrassing to admit, but I'm admitting it now. But yeah, I feel like for people really in turmoil, that maybe are INFJs, or you know what I mean, like have the SI and the demon. I feel like maybe SE and the demon would be worse. I don't know. But yeah, it's something that we need to work through. And lastly, before I run out of time, of course, I just want to say, like, I feel like INFJs, we really need to look into our shadow, and we also need to look into it more than how I kind of just looked into it. Like, we need to really learn how to integrate the shadow, because we need all 8 functions to be a complete person. As much as we want to push all those functions into the shadow, no, we can't do that. We really got to integrate them, especially because, INFJs, we already have a hard time, like we already have a hard time in this world. So when we don't own our own darkness or our own, bottom 4 functions, like it's just gonna make it harder. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of other INFJs agree with me. It's easy to slip into our shadow and try to pretend that we're an ENFP. We're not an ENFP. We never will be. We want to be, we're not. So we need to learn how to integrate those ENFP qualities that we so deeply want to use. We can't be jealous of the ENFP personality, because then we're going to try to pretend we're an ENFP. And it'll work for a while. It's not going to work forever. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I hope that maybe some things I've said resonate or what have you. But leave me comments and let me know. Yeah, so I feel like us INFJs, haters gonna hate, but like, we can do this. We're great people. We need to be okay with everybody else knowing that. So yeah.